Welcome to the second annual conference for the Montana Forest Collaboration Network, Public Lands Management, Overcoming Adversity and Conflict. There's none of that out there, right? So we've got a great program lined up the rest of today and tomorrow. And thanks to the chair of our planning committee, Jim Birchfield, who did a great job for the advisory council. And to the advisory council members who have been great providing guidance and direction, you know, for the whole effort under the Montana Forest Collaboration Network. I also want to thank our sponsors, which we couldn't have an event like this without their contributions. So we have the U.S. Forest Service, Montana DNRC, Bureau of Land Management, Cinnabar Foundation, Society of American Foresters, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, the Nature Conservancy, the Wilderness Society, Montana Wilderness Association, Forest Stewardship Foundation, Montana Wood Products, and the Kralik Foundation. Let's give them a big hand. And I also need to thank all of you and the folks who are members of your collaboratives or collaborative processes. You are the folks that are helping increase the footprint of collaboration across Montana and beyond our borders. So we've got a fair amount of ground to cover, starting just a little bit late. So I'll start with our agenda and introduce our first speaker. On behalf of Governor Steve Bullock, who was unable to make it today. And by the way, you've all got a note card, right, in your packet. And so if there are any questions you have during the course of the program that do not get answered, write them down, and Joe Ashore from the BLM will be going through those later on at the end of the day. We want to make sure everybody has an opportunity to get their questions answered and heard, and if we don't have time, we'll deal with that later too. So we're very fortunate today to have with us Governor Bullock's Natural Resource Policy Advisor, Patrick Holmes. He came to work for the governor previously as Chief of Staff for Undersecretary Robert Bonnie. In that role, he had a great deal of involvement on issues like climate change, timber management, the environment, a whole host of things. He's very knowledgeable, articulate, and he's a graduate of the Yale School of Forestry and Environmental Studies and Colorado College, a past fellow of the Kinship Conservation Institute, and a WIS scholar. He previously worked for the Colorado Conservation Trust, Sonoran Institute, the Yale Center for Business and Environment, and the State of the Rockies Project. So with that, I'll ask Patrick, come on up, let's give him a big hand.
Well, thanks, Gordy, and good afternoon, everybody. Not sure if you know that I thought I knew how to operate electronics, but maybe I don't. A lot of you may not know that Gordy was recently the recipient of the Governor's Award for Excellence in the Promotion and Use of Wood Products. It's hard to fathom anyone more deserving given all of the many accomplishments Gordy has and contributions, including helping establish and support a lot of the work of many of the collaborative groups in the room. So let's pause and give Gordy a round of applause, because so pleasure to be with you all. Governor Bullock sends his regrets at the moment. He has the great pleasure of holding a news conference to announce our plans for a special session next week and sharing his vision for the mix of legislative transfers, cuts, and new revenues that he thinks will responsibly manage our budget moving forward. So needless to say, he'd much rather be here with you all talking about a topic he cares a whole heck of a lot about, but was unable to be here. So it's a pleasure to be here with you today. I'm excited that you all are getting together, and extraordinarily pleased that we're spending some time focusing on how we can support collaboration and forest and rangeland management here in Montana. I wanted to start just by reflecting a little bit on the wildfire season we just had, which I know is top of mind for all of us right now, but obviously 1.3 million acres burned, $72.5 million here spent from the state, over $400 million when you include the role of all of our partners. We all endured 7 weeks plus of periodic evacuations, 2 times the rate of incidences of respiratory illness in our state's hospitals in many parts of the state. We had to mourn together the loss of 2 firefighters, and of course had just countless impacts to businesses and communities, livestock producers, and forage and other impacts moving forward. The cumulative fatigue of that experience and the stress and the pressure of that experience extends beyond just those who are engaged in just the immediate wildfire response activities. And for those of us who work on forest issues, I think we feel all of that a little bit more acutely than others. The challenges that creates both for us in this room and the work we have moving forward and for the wildland firefighting community are very, very significant. And responding to those pressures requires that we emphasize the ability to communicate, our ability to work together, our ability to withstand what can oftentimes be some difficult outside scrutiny and partners, or I should say outside entities who are looking to drive wedges between partners and the important work that needs to be done. You see that in the firefighting space. You certainly see that as the political pressures ramp up and our respective political leaders get more heavily engaged in this topic. And ultimately, part of the challenge here is how we maintain the strength and resilience of our partnerships in the face of what is a challenging time. And I think you can step back from the experience of this fire season and look at polarizing politics nationally and realize that it's all the more important now that we focus our attention and effort on working together, demonstrating the ways in which we can make accomplishments happen on the ground and support the work that most needs to get done. So you're all to be applauded for being here and for making time to invest in that. I think it's, stepping back from the fire season, I think we all know that we're facing a forest health crisis. I don't need to recite the statistics to you all. Our fire seasons are 78 days longer than they used to be. Across the West, we've had 7 states that have experienced record fire seasons or fire events. We have obviously tremendous impacts that span business, the environment, a whole range of different areas to contend with. And ultimately, those impacts are going to be increasing in the future. Our Forest Service researchers say we could see 2 to 4 times the area burned annually over the next 20 to 25 years. Here in Montana, we see predictions of variable precipitation, rising temperatures, and an expected increase in the number of days of extreme heat like we experienced this past year that are ultimately going to create increased challenges with wildfire and the severity of wildfire that ultimately will impact our habitat, will impact our timber resources. It's going to impact recreation opportunities and water supplies. And ultimately, it requires we have a new focus on how we respond to that those concerns. So I think we all know we have a forest health crisis, and our capacity to respond to that crisis has typically been curtailed, and ultimately we have limited capacity. As many of you know, the Forest Service budget issue is a huge piece of that challenge. In 1995, the agency spent 16% of its budget on fire. Today, it's upwards of 60%. And there are two parts to that problem: the rising costs of wildfire, by using a 10-year average, a rear-view mirror approach to the challenges we face of increasing fire trends, ultimately results in up to $100 million a year or some years being transferred from non-fire to fire programs before a season even starts. And then there's the complicating problem, where in the middle of the season, the amount of money Congress has appropriated is insufficient, and funds need to be pulled out of non-fire programs into fire programs to meet the current challenges. That is hugely disruptive. It stops work. It curtails planning. It limits predictability in getting things done on the ground. And those two things result in a situation where you've got an agency that wants to get more work done, has one foot on the gas, but is tapping the brakes, has one hand tied behind its back going into every season. And until we fix that problem, we ultimately have huge challenges in accomplishing the other things we want to see on the ground. But I think the challenges of capacity go beyond just the agency experience. And certainly we have challenges with capacity within our forest products industry that are really important to consider as well. We endured a global financial health crisis where housing starts plummeted from 2 million annually to about 550,000, a 50-year low. And we lost about 79,000 jobs in the wood products sector. While we had decreases in worker earnings, we had many mills who closed or limited capacity as a result of that, and ultimately 30 large mills across the West and many smaller that significantly reduced their production capacity. Well, today our markets are recovering, but they haven't recovered. And we've been buoyed through some lean years through, in many cases, exporting to China and other opportunities of that nature, whole logs, I should say. But ultimately, we've got some challenges here, and the unpredictability around the future, whether you like where we're at with the softwood lumber agreement or not, creates some additional challenges that we need to work through. Ultimately, making sure that we have that capacity over the long haul is something we all need to get the work done in the woods that we care about. So if you're looking at these trends, and I know many of you know this like the back of your hand, and I dwell on it at all, to note that I think the experience that we've had here in Montana amid those trends of increasing challenges facing our forests and increasing challenges facing our communities, that it's really remarkable how folks have responded, and that's a tribute to the strength of the partnerships that you all have and that you all have pushed forward through your work. That includes the state, it includes industry, it includes the environmental community, includes our federal agency partners, and certainly our elected officials and others. And against what I would consider to be some significant odds, folks have rolled up their sleeves and accomplished quite a bit of work. In 2014, as many of you know, we're approaching a crossroads in some of this work, and the governor helped focus some attention on this through the Forests in Focus initiative to try and tackle these issues head on. We've invested $2 million in 25 collaboratively developed Forest Service projects, all told helping to support about 3,000 jobs in the woods and a number of other goals related to reducing timelines for environmental analysis and supporting project work. We supported the Beaverhead Deer Lodge Working Group, for example, which has been involved in project development of several Forests in Focus funded projects, including the Boulder Lowlands area as one example. But we've also participated in and financially supported collaborative groups and local government involvement in collaborative groups with grants to 16 counties to help fund professional facilitation and county commissioner costs associated with getting engaged. We've got our local government forest advisor, Matt Arno, who sits on the Forest and Focus team, but obviously who reports to the 56 counties in the state to provide technical and cost share assistance to help them productively engage in this work. Another example of that's the funding we've provided to Sanders County for their collaborative committee to support professional facilitation. And a lot of that work, of course, helps support the successful implementation of last year's Copper King fire salvage effort. We've also provided resources for collaborative groups and local governments, and those are members of obviously key working groups, and supporting their efforts for projects when they are challenged in court with those who are unwilling to sit down at the table. We've done that in the Kootenai, obviously, and a number of other places. Collaboration certainly is getting a lot done on federal lands and across ownership lines. We've provided grants to the Blackfoot Community Conservation Area and neighboring landowners to help support their work of achieving cross-boundary management. We supported the Blackfoot Challenge and the Clearwater Resource Council, the Swan Valley Connections, administering grants to private landowners to get that work done. And have done some significant work in the upper Rattlesnake as well. So, you know, I think the progress has been significant. And along the way, Congress, of course, got around to passing a 2014 Farm Bill, and we were well positioned to take the lead in implementing many of those provisions, which we've done so successfully. One of the first to help put together a G&A agreement, and obviously trying to build on that with more project activity. We're also making great work under some of the provisions for insect and disease designations that were part of that effort. So there's remarkable progress. If you ask the governor, he would say that it's not the outputs that the board feet, the acres restored that are impactful to him. It's the outcomes. It's our ability to get more folks out in the woods. It's the impacts we're having on watershed health, the impacts we're having on wildlife habitat that inspire him in his interest and dedication to this work. And as we've looked around the West, the experience we had with Forest and Focus was shared by a number of other states who were leading the way through their own efforts to support a better, more productive approach to forest and rangeland management. And that's part of why through his chairmanship at the Western Governors Association, Governor Bullock took up the torch of this set of issues and convened a forum for learning over the past several years to advance a common approach to these issues. So through WGA, we've had 4 governor-led workshops in Montana, Idaho, Oregon, South Dakota. I know many of you participated in those. All leading, in addition, through a series of webinars to a report that we produced and released this past June that created a series of bipartisan recommendations, help inform a new administration in transition, but also to help provide a roadmap for Congress as they consider wildfire budget and forest management reform to see the areas in which 19 Western governors had bipartisan agreement. Part of what we were trying to do with that was to reflect back a philosophy for forest and rangeland management based on what we've really seen happening out on the ground. And that philosophy really had four core values that we highlighted in our report. And the first is collaboration. It underpins the philosophy of the WGA more broadly and the work of the governors. But it's also something that obviously we've seen consistently showing great returns in terms of impact and the importance of lessons learned and the opportunities to do more through collaboration is a key theme of the report. The other areas that we highlighted were partnership. Partnership helps us prioritize our limited resources and helps us hold one another accountable. It's more than walking the walk, or more than talking the talk, I should say. It's walking the walk, and whether it be through Good Neighbor Authority or other efforts, partnership is another piece of the puzzle that we need to be pushing forward. We also focused on the urgency of getting work done. I think this past fire season emphasized that urgency, that regardless of where you are on the political spectrum right now, we have a unique window to move forward new work, and we all need to actively engage in that. And then finally, resilience. Ultimately, resilient forests and resilient communities go hand in hand. You all understand and practice that through your work every day, and WGA certainly wanted to recognize and appreciate that. So we have a report with a series of recommendations. They're both administrative recommendations in there and legislative recommendations. My dog-eared copy is over there that I carry around with me everywhere. I'm pleased that every time I have seen Chief Took in his new role, he reports back to me that he's read it a couple more times since the last time I saw him. And we were especially encouraged when the chief made it out here just a week into his tenure to spend a little time with us out at the Rice Ridge Fire, and also made a point of taking some time with the governor to talk about how we can align some of his priorities he sees moving forward around improving the way the agency conducts environmental analysis, getting better decisions, doing better analysis at the same time, with some of the initiatives and focus of the Western governors. I won't spend a whole bunch of time on those recommendations, but would just invite you all to look at them at your convenience if you haven't had a chance to do so. And I'd emphasize that there are obviously a lot of proposals before Congress at the moment on how to move forward on these issues. But I do believe there's a great deal of alignment between where a group of bipartisan governors have landed and where those initiatives are moving forward. And I also think there's a significant opportunity to get a lot of work done under the administrative capacity of the Forest Service and where they're headed with some of their ideas. For those who haven't had the chance to work with Chief Took yet, I can tell you in my experience, he has consistently been a pragmatic and practical leader. He's the type of person who can galvanize change and the enthusiasm throughout the ranks. But he also knows how to make sure that change sticks and it's durable and it's long-lasting. And we see a tremendous amount of opportunity to accomplish good work in partnership with the governors. And as we move forward on implementation of this effort, I want to emphasize that the governor wants to know how he can support your work moving forward. And we're going to continue to push nationally through the other Western governors for the changes and reforms that we've identified in our report. But the governor's committed to continuing to lead here in the state as well, and making sure that we do continue to come together and demonstrate the best path forward on these issues. That all becomes very challenging amid the budget dynamic that's playing out and will play out hopefully over the next couple of weeks. But the governor has prioritized trying to find a solution that resolves our longstanding fire budget issues and continues to provide funding that supports collaboration and the force and focus work here in the state because of the leadership role that we've shown across the West and because of the urgency of responding to the types of issues that you all are working on every day. So I'll stop there and just say thanks for having me, thanks for inviting the governor, and we really look forward to your ideas and recommendations on how we can make the most of the state's leadership role in supporting collaboration on these issues. So thanks.
So I do anybody have a question? I do have one question. Since the Governor Bullock is going to be the incoming chair of the National Governors Association, do you see some transition from the WGA initiative to roll into the National Governors Association efforts?
I do, and I was just in D.C. last week for the Wildland Fire Leadership Council forum where the governor represents a Western governor in that effort, and had an opportunity to sit down with the National Governors Association, who just for the first time sent a letter to all the key congressional leadership on the fire budget issue, which is significant given the eastern states having variable interest in what they consider to be a Western issue. Now, we all know what happened in the Southeast last year means that this is a nationwide issue. But also, of course, the fire issue does impact national forest programs all across the country. So I would say yes. The governor hasn't made a decision on what his initiative will be when he takes over the chairmanship of NGA next year. But independent of that, the Natural Resources Committee of NGA is very eager to move out on these issues. Right now, that committee is chaired by two Western governors, Governor Matt Mead and Governor Jerry Brown, and they have found a way to work together on a variety of issues in this space under the leadership of that committee. So see big opportunities there, and certainly feel like it's important that we continue to push the types of bipartisan solutions through every venue that we have. So,
Thank you. Really appreciate your comments. Okay, so we do have some congressional staff here, and I know they don't have prepared comments, but Senior Senator staff, Eric? If you've got a few words to say, that would be great.
Thanks, Gordy. Appreciate it. I wish I had as impressive resume as Patrick, but I'm just a Butte guy who works for a farmer from Big Sandy. So thank you for allowing us a few minutes to say a few words. And since my boss has been in Congress in 2007, he started working with many of you on collaboratives and has memorialized a couple of those in legislation. And Gordy's been a part of a couple of those. And, he didn't come from a timber family, didn't come from a particular conservation background, but what really impressed him is people from diverse interests, putting aside their differences, working together to come up with solutions. And that's the sort of work he believes in. So he truly appreciates all the work you guys do, knows it isn't easy, and he'll work hard to continue on your work. Patrick hit it well on describing the wildfire funding issue. John is a co-sponsor of the Wildfire Disaster Funding Act. Hopefully we were able to get something done with that by the end of the year. It's not lost on us that in the disaster supplemental, we refunded $576 million to the Forest Service. Well, that's well and good, but that really represents work that you guys could have got done on the ground if we had this thing fixed before that. So hopefully we're able to get that done. Some good progress on the softwood lumber agreement. Hopefully we're able to get Canada to the table and have something long-term and meaningful for our timber industry. But I kind of want to close and say, the Forest Service lately has been meeting their goals and, on their timber goals and things, but it's not lost on us because the diverse, geographically diverse, you guys are all over the place now. A good portion of the reason that the Forest Service is actually meeting its goals is you folks. So thank you for all your work. Appreciate it. Keep it up and let us know if there's anything we can do.
Spencer, did you have some things to say for Senator Daines? You always have something to say. I was nice.
Ouch. For those that don't know me, Spencer Merwin, Senator Steve Daines' office. Really just want to thank you for inviting us, and Tim, you always get this on our agenda very early on, so thank you for that. For us, it's really about listening and gathering input that you all talk about when you're talking about trying to get more work done on the ground, and that's certainly been the Senator's goal since he's been elected first as a member of the House and now as a member of the Senate. The goal has always been and will continue to be to increase the pace and scale of restoration across forest lands here in Montana. We really appreciate your input as we go through doing that. And one thing that the Senator certainly does like to talk about is finding ways in which we can reward, incentivize, and provide protection for collaboratively developed projects. And that's certainly been a topic of conversation back in Washington, D.C. Senator Tester and Senator Daines sponsoring what's now just referred to as the Cottonwood Bill, but much of that is geared off of projects that have been halted, that have been developed by folks like this in the room who, and Patrick, you talked about the challenges of folks that continue to drive wedges in the good work that you all do here on the ground, and that's just one aspect of this very complicated issue that Congress continues to deal with. And obviously, the wildfire discussion has been largely talked about here, certainly not lost on us as well, and we look forward to this fall and trying to bring members of both parties together to try and get something done. I think Patrick, and I don't mean to paraphrase, but you kind of talked about, regardless of the political spectrum, there's certainly an appetite right now in Washington, but from leadership on whether it's management or the fire funding issue, there's a lot of interest in trying to get something accomplished here, and we certainly look forward to playing any role that we can in doing so. And I will be around for much of this and look forward to talking with folks as this goes on.
Thanks, Spencer. And I know Caleb Hinkle is here for Congressman Gianforte. Did you want to say a few words?
Hi there. For those who don't know me, I'm Caleb Hinkle. I'm the Western Montana Regional Field Rep for the Congressman. I will just make this short and sweet. I think that we just had a great victory bipartisanly in the House this past week with the Bruce Westerman Resilient Federal Forest Act that our Congressman co-sponsored. And so essentially, I just wanted to say, if you have any questions, feel free to grab me during this. Thank you.
Thanks, Caleb. Okay, so I was going to have everybody go around and introduce the person next to them. I think in the interest of time, we're just going to go around, everybody introduce yourself, and so everybody knows the range of folks that are here, who you are, what your interest is, and what collaborative you're in. Barb.
Barb Sestero with the Wilderness Society, current member of the Custer Gallatin Working Group, past member of the Beaver Lake Working Group. That's me.
Megan Brazell with the Wilderness Society. I am an alum of the Lolo and Lincoln Restoration Committees and also the Blackfoot Clearwater Stewardship Project.
Peter Cole, Montana State Extension Forestry Specialist and a founding member and advisor to the Montana Forest Owners Association.
Josh Smith, Montana DNRC, not currently part of the collaborative right now.
John Hagengerber, Forest Service Liaison of the State of Montana. Same goes with Josh said. Scott Brennan, the State Director for the Wilderness Society based in Bozeman, founding member of the Southwest Ground Collaborative and a number of other collaboratives represented in the room.
John Franke, Chairman of the Custer Gallatin Working Group, former Carbon County Commissioner.
Did you hear that?
That was enough.
We have to start over? No.
Matt Arno, DNRC, and I've been a member of the Lolo Restoration Committee since it started in 2007.
Edward Monig, retired from the Forest Service and a member of the Lolo Restoration Committee with Matt and Jim and others. Also on the Southwest Ground of the Continent.
Hello, I'm Joe Adamski, BLM Forester out of the Idaho State Office, Boise, Idaho. Also a member of the Idaho Forest Restoration Partnership.
Jim Cancroft, Forester with Northwest Management here in Helena, one of the original members of the Helena Open Lands Advisory Committee.
Hi, I'm Dave Reese. I'm a journalist. I'm working on a documentary film called Forests in Focus, and we hope to have that released next year, so I hope I get a chance to speak with several of you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Ken Reed, BLM, Montana's Dakota State Forester.
My name is Kyle Johnson. I'm a forester with the BLM Missoula Field Office, currently active with the Blackfoot Challenge, the Crown of the Continent, and some other stuff that slips my mind. Thank you.
John Hoffler with the Ecosystem Management Research Institute, Clearwater Resource Council, and Southwest Crown of the Continent Collaborative.
Hello, my name is Mark Cook. I'm with Wolves of the Rockies, but I'm working with the River Valley County Collaborative, nice to meet everybody here.
Hello, I'm Jim Birchfield. I'm part of the Montana Forest Collaboration Network's Advisory Committee. I work with the Southwest Crown Collaborative and also the Lolo Restoration Committee.
My name's Kelsey Milner. I'm from Hamilton. I'm a retired forest biometrician, and I'm here with the Valley County Collaborative.
Hi, I'm Margaret Gorski. I'm retired Forest Service and a member of our Valley County Collaborative. We're really excited. We're just getting started. We just passed our bylaws, so we're really interested in sinking our teeth into our first project.
Hey everybody, Zach Porter with the Montana Wilderness Association, Southwestern Crown Collaborative, and Blackfoot Clearwater Stewardship Project.
Hi, I'm Chip Weber. I'm the Forest Supervisor on the Flathead, and we work with quite a few collaboratives, notably Southwest Crown, Whitefish Range Partners, and I could go on and on.
Sarah Lundstrom, National Parks Conservation Association in Whitefish, and the Whitefish Range Partnership Secretary.
Hi, Lawson Fight. I'm the General Counsel of American Forest Resource Council out of Portland, Oregon. We represent a number of collaboratives in court or regional trade association on the industry side, but we have an active legal program working most closely with Kootenai Forest Stakeholders Coalition and have done quite a bit with a number of collaboratives in Idaho and Washington as well.
Al Christofferson, I'm co-chair of the Elkhorn Restoration Committee over out of Townsend, Montana.
I'm Ed LeBear. I'm the Lincoln County Forester. I'm the Secretary Treasurer of the Kootenai Forest Stakeholder Coalition, and I'm Chairman of the Montana Forest Stewardship Foundation.
Thanks, Ed. Yeah, I'm Joe Asher, BLM Field Manager here in Missoula. I'm on the advisory board of MFCN as well as the Crown Managers Partnership and on the board of the Blackfoot Challenge.
Hi, Kaylee Becker. I'm with Missoula County and a participant of the Southwest Crown of the Continent Collaborative.
I'm Steve Kletzel with the Nature Conservancy, and mostly we collaborate with the Blackfoot Challenge, Clearwater Resource Council, Southwest Crown Collaborative. Thanks.
I'm Carol Young. I chair the Mineral County Resource Coalition, and I serve on the school board for St. Regis.
Lori Johnston, Mineral County Resource Coalition and Mineral County Commissioner.
Emily Park. I work with Mineral County Resource Coalition and Montana State University Extension for Mineral County.
Hi, my name is Jessie Grossman, and I work for the Yak Valley Forest Council, and I participate in the Kootenai Forest Stakeholder Coalition.
Hi, I'm Megan Oswald. I'm the Regional Collaborative Relations Coordinator for the Forest Service. I participate with several collaborative groups in Montana and Idaho and serve on the advisory board of MFCN.
Good afternoon. My name is Dave Haddis. I'm the District Ranger for Plains Thompson Falls, Lolo National Forest, and I work with the Lolo Restoration Community, Mineral County group, and proud to say, and happy to say that Sanders County collaborative that just recently organized.
Bill Meadows, a rancher who has property bordering the Cabinet district of the Kootenai Forest. I serve on the Cabinet Stakeholders Group and also the chair of the Montana Farm Bureau Federation Forestry and Natural Resources Committee.
Doug Farrell. I'm with the Friends of Scotchman Peaks Wilderness and participating in the Kootenai Forest Stakeholders Collaborative.
Hello, I'm Robin King. I am with the Yak Valley Forest Council, and I am a founding member of the Kootenai Forest Stakeholders Coalition. And I'm happy to be here seeing this number of folks growing every year. We're doing good work.
I'm Dave Atkins. I'm with Tree Source, an online magazine that just got started this last April. and I work with the Lolo Restoration Committee.
I'm Ben Irie with the National Forest Foundation. We facilitate and coordinate the efforts of several collaborative groups around the country, forest collaboratives, including the Beaverhead Deer Lodge Working Group locally, more locally, and the Idaho Panhandle Collaborative.
Good afternoon. My name is Joe Konauer. I'm from Helena. I'm the chair of the 10 Mile South Helena Forest Collaborative. I also sit on the Elkhorn Restoration Committee and the South Elkhorn Working Group. I'm the chair of the Upper Missouri River RAC and also the local chapter chair for the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation.
My name is Mike Bishop. I'm the co-vice chair of the Helena, South Helena Collaborative, 10 Mile South Helena Collaborative. My background is in hydrology and soils. My entire career, I'm retired, my entire career was spent dealing with restoration of disturbed landscapes, in the last 25 years involved with the Environmental Protection Agency cleaning up abandoned mine sites.
Yeah, Kevin Ryan, Wildland Fire Sciences, retired Forest Service, spent the last 33 years at the Fire Lab here in Missoula. I've been in wildland fire since 1970, and I'm working as a consultant now, working on cross-boundary fuels treatment issues.
Hi, I'm Mike Shadell. I work with the Nature Conservancy, and I'm also a member of the Lolo Restoration Committee.
Chris Town, Natural Resource Conservation Service Forester out of Missoula. Hopefully we are enablers of all of those collaborations.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Christine Daw, the Director of Renewable Resources Management for the Northern Region of the Forest Service, and there's a whole bunch of folks on my staff who work with collaboratives across the state.
Hello, I'm Rich Lane. I'm the log buyer for Willis Enterprises, the chip plant out at Bonner. We use all the little stuff.
I'm Chris Tutel, retired Forest Service. I have a consulting firm, and I'm a member of the Lolo Restoration Group.
Hi, I'm Dave Campbell from Hamilton. I'm retired Forest Service, and I work on the Bitter Restoration Committee.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is George Korn. I'm chair for the Northern Advisory Council for the National Parks Conservation Association. Also an avid backcountry skier. I was able to get up Lolo Peak once again. May 23rd, I'm eager to see what it looks like next year.
Good afternoon. I'm Paul McKenzie with FH Stoltz Land and Lumber Company up in Columbia Falls. And work with Whitefish Range Partnership, the Kootenai stakeholders, and a few others.
Nick Jose, Sun Mountain Lumber, and I'm with the Beaverhead Deer Lodge Working Group.
I'm Brian Kahn with Artemis Common Ground. With other people in the room, helped start the Montana Forest Restoration Committee in 2006. I'm on the Advisory Council on the MFCN.
Hello, Blake Henning with the Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation. I head up our conservation programs, and I'm on the MFCN Advisory Committee.
I'm Tim Love. I'm with the Montana Forest Collaboration Network.
Marnie Criley with Watershed Consulting here in Missoula, and I serve on the Advisory Council of MFCN and alumni of the Lolo Restoration Committee and the Southwest Crown Collaborative.
My name is Jim McCormick. I'm Lewis and Clark County Commissioner. I have a specific interest in management of the Helena Lewis and Clark National Forest.
Thanks. I'm Angela Harrington, Legislative Affairs Coordinator for the Northern Region.
I'm John Gatchell. I work for the Montana Wilderness Association. We're sponsors of this event, and our members and staff are involved in 10 of the place-based Montana collaboratives that you see listed. And I'm alumni, I guess, of the Kootenai and Lolo Accords 26 years ago.
Amy Robinson, Montana Wilderness Association up in Northwest Montana. I'm involved with the Whitefish Range Partnership and the Kootenai Forest Stakeholders Coalition.
Good afternoon. I'm Kirk Thompson, and I'm the co-chair of the Bitterroot Restoration Committee.
Hello, I'm Maureen Connor, and I'm on the steering committee of the Beaverhead Deer Lodge Working Group, and live in Phillipsburg.
I'm Leonard Workman. I'm on the Beaverhead Deer Lodge Working Group, and I'm also a Jefferson County Commissioner. And I'm kind of wondering how the Cubans got in here to start trying to do the stuff they do to us. So,
hello, my name is Tori. I'm a non-traditional student right now, finishing up my degree at the university. I also have a year-long position that I'm doing with the Montana Wilderness Association right now as their Wilderness Fellow, and I'm currently focusing my efforts with Zach to better understand and advocate for the Blackfoot Clearwater Stewardship Act.
Carol Brooker, Sanders County Commissioner, and also a member of the Sanders County Coalition, or Collaborative Group, I'm sorry, and Board of Directors on the National Coalition for Forest Counties.
I'm Abby Lane with the Regional and Timber Strike Team, and I'm a forester.
Good afternoon, Pat McKelvey. I'm on the advisory committee from Helena. I also am here representing FireSafe Montana. We're interested, of course, in the wildland-urban interface and its ever expansion into the project areas that you people want to work on. I'm a project manager for the Tri-County FireSafe Working Group in Helena and a former co-chair of the 10-mile, what do we call it then, 10-mile South Hills Collaborative.
I'm Ray Prill, and I keep the Short Irishman Company. I'm the executive director of Tri-County FireSafe Working Group in Helena.
Hello, I'm Jordan Reeves with the Wilderness Society, member of several collaboratives, including the Blackfoot Clearwater Stewardship Project, the Southwestern Crown of the Continent Collaborative, and the Lincoln Restoration Committee.
Hi, I'm Signe Lerfall. I'm the forestry coordinator with the Blackfoot Challenge.
Hi, I'm Julie McLaughlin. I'm a land steward with the Nature Conservancy's High Divide Headwaters program.
Afternoon, my name is Tom Lang. I'm a current graduate student at the University of Montana focusing on recreation management.
Hi, I'm Natalie Stockman. I'm an intern for the Southwestern Crown Collaborative. Thanks, and a University of Montana student.
I'm Jessica Haas. I work with the Rocky Mountain Research Station, and I do a lot of different wildfire analysis support for collaboratives here in Montana and nationwide.
Willie Peck, Tricon Timber, and member of the Mineral County Resource Coalition.
Carol Johnson, I'm District Ranger in the Superior Ranger District, and I work with the Mineral County Collaborative Group.
I'm Rebecca Ramsey. I'm the new Executive Director with Swan Valley Connections in Condon, and we're part of the Southwestern Crown Collaborative.
Thank you, everyone. I'm Deborah Parker Foley. I'm the administrator of MFCN. I'm thrilled to be working with you all, and I'm working with you.
And, well, thank you, everybody, for the introductions. And while Deb is still here, I want to really thank our coordinator, Tim Love, who will speak to you later, and his administrative assistant, Deb Parker Foley, who helped put all of this together. So let's give them a big hand. So, and we will have a break about 2:30. So what have we learned, and what lessons have we learned, and how do we overcome adversity and conflict? So obviously, you know, with the fires that we had this last year and the ongoing efforts on the part of the agency to deal with salvage, that brings some contention. But as we think back a year ago when Brian Kahn said in the closeout of our first meeting, collaboratives have untapped potential which cannot be underestimated. How many of you agree with that? That was a wise statement, Brian. And I believe collaboratives and the collaborative processes are the future of public land management. You know, the more interaction between different interests, the more the progress. So I'd like to introduce our next speaker, presenter, Dave Haddis, who's the district ranger of the Plains-Thompson Falls Ranger District. He's been there since 2015, and I know Carol can weigh in whenever you choose to, but Dave, if you want to come on up, and he's responsible for managing 500,000 acres, and that's every activity possible on forested lands. So let's give him a big hand.
Thank you, Gordy. It's pretty impressive when we went around the room, and I was thinking about the number of hours, a number of years in natural resource management. I'm sure we're well over 1,000 years of expertise in this room, and I got to tell you, it makes me a little intimidated. But my task this afternoon is to talk about the Copper King salvage effort. And I'm gonna break it into like 4 parts. And one, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about the incident and talk about the post-burn activities that happened over the course of the last 13 months. And then the last part, to get to the really the important of why we're here today, is the in my mind, humble mind, what items contributed to the success of this and the collaborative process that got us where we got to today. So. And then the last part, I'll try to leave a few minutes for questions. So July 31st, 2016 was a beautiful Montana day. Sun shining, and later that afternoon the wind started picking up and we had a report of a fire. And that fire started near the Kooksink trailhead. It's about 5 miles east of Thompson Falls, and just about at the mouth of the Thompson River. That was the start of an incident that lasted about 50-some days, and there were 3 incident management teams. Suppression cost about $29 million. 3 incident management teams worked on that, as well as our Type 3 organization of our district. It burned 29,000 acres, and around 19,000 acres were on national forest, about 8,000 acres on Weyerhaeuser, and the balance was on DNRC land. After the fire was not even contained yet, it was in early September, we put together a burned area emergency response team comprised primarily of hydrologists and soil scientist engineers, and they took a look at began an assessment of the national forest property that had been burned, and their task was to evaluate whether or not there was any risk to public safety in the post-burn environment. In other words, when spring runoff or the storms that occurred in 2017, what kind of risk there would be to public safety and as well as to public land. That assessment was completed in about 10 days, and we started with some storm-proofing activities later in November, December. Storm-proofing being things like cleaning out ditches, making sure that the culverts, inlets, and outlets were functioning, and in some cases, removing culverts. The bear assessment, we were allocated about $470,000 to complete that work, and we used a service contract the next year to complete most of that work, and it entailed a fair amount of culvert resizing, removal, or increasing the size of the culverts. We also used some youth crews to complete some trail work that had trails that had been damaged in the fire. Posted warning signs, and also did some noxious weed spraying this summer. So right after the fire occurred, towards the end of it, in early September, we pulled together an incident interdisciplinary team and started the assessment for the environmental assessment to look at salvage opportunities as well as planting, and also taking a look at what we needed to do to address public safety. We started that assessment in September, and the decision was completed in June of this year. In the spring of this summer, or the spring of this year, we offered personal use and commercial mushroom permits, and issued $23,000 worth of permits and commercial permits for the Copper King. And one of the offsets of that was that there was an uptake in the use of motel rooms in the county, as well as an increase in groceries purchased and gas stations and that sort of thing with the folks that came in to commercially harvest the mushrooms. As a result of the analysis that was completed, we were able to offer 2 salvage sales. One of them, named Blackjack, was 522 acres in size and 8,496 CCF, or about 4 million board feet. And that was purchased by TRL, a local mill in Sanders County. The second, that sale was offered, we made the decision in June 6th, and that we did the bid on that sale by the end of June. 1 year and 1 day after the fire started, we offered the Carbon Queen sale. That was 712 acres and 18,647 CCF, or about 9 million board feet. And that went to Tricon. Both of those sales are active, and logging started on Blackjack in August, and Carbon Queen started in September. Both of those sales are currently going and proceeding fairly well. We did have some delays this summer with some of those companies. We had hoot owl restrictions, which limited the opportunities to log, but also those companies were, their loggers were involved in some suppression activities that were going on this summer. So probably most importantly, wanted to share with you today is items that I think contributed to the success of making Copper King and making these salvage sales a success and making them happen. Probably one of the key things in my mind is the support from the county commissioners. And Carol Brooker is here, Glenn McGarrett, and Tony Cox, in my mind, are excellent county commissioners. And they were briefed during the course of the fire daily on what was going on, either through their emergency services person or through the sheriff or through the incident management teams. And I interacted with them quite often during the fire. And while there was still smoke on the hill, they were asking the question. It's like, what about salvage? And what are you going to do about that? And not only did they pushed hard for that at the very beginning, but also stayed engaged through the entire process. And I met with them monthly to let them know what was going on and where we were at in the whole process. The other item that I think is important is the forest supervisor's leader's intent. Tim Garcia, our Lolo National Forest supervisor, made it clear early on in the new fiscal year, our fiscal year starts in October, that Copper King was the #1 priority for the forest, not just the west zone. And he made it a priority for everyone on the forest, that it was an important and critical part of our program of work, and that we needed to satisfy it. I appreciated his leadership and emphasis on that. You can't get an EA done in 10 months without a dedicated and committed interdisciplinary team. Carol Johnson, District Ranger from Superior, and I co-manage a West Zone planning team that, in my mind, is some of the best planners and specialists I've been associated with in the 30 years I've been with the Forest Service. They took it on, and they made it a priority, and they made it happen. The other item that I think is important to talk about is that we sought the approval of the chiefs to use Emergency Situation Determination, or ESD. And that's an authority that the chief allows us to use in certain situations when there's an opportunity to expedite the economic recovery of wood products, and also where there's an element of restoration and where there's issue with public safety. As a result of ESD being issued, we were able to, when we did the decision in June, we were able to implement it immediately, and there was no objection period. As I said before, the decision was June 6th, and we did a short ad, a 15-day ad, and offered that sale by the end of June. So timelines were established early on in the process. We have Chris Partica as forest planner, and Chris is a process guy, and he sat down with the ID team and myself, as well as the implementation foresters, and we put together a schedule that everything you can imagine, not only on the planning side, but also the implementation. And that timeline, I think, is important because we blew it up and we put it in my office and referred to it almost daily. And where we were on those timelines was critical, and you know, we stayed religious to that. The other item I think is important to mention is that we coordinated very well with the biologists from the Fish and Wildlife Service. One of our issues was with bull trout, and we knew that they were going to need to issue a biological opinion, and we worked with them from the very beginning, and I have to thank those biologists out of the Kalispell office for coming through and issuing that BO in a timely manner, and allowed us to get the decision out in June. The other thing is that we have an excellent implementation team, and Wanda Smith is a TMA on the Superior District, handles the West Zone. Lots of bells and whistles, lots of things going on, and Wanda managed that very well so that we were able to, as we were doing the planning, we were also implementing the sales and doing things like getting roads plowed in so that the crews could get in there and get the boundaries marked and get the timber cruised. Excellent job with that, as well as working with our surveyors that came in and did the boundary lines. We also worked closely with the R1 Strike Team as a group of foresters dedicated for sale implementation and prep. So what about public involvement? Again, this would not have happened without the participation of the public and the folks up in Sanders County and others. We did have a 30-day scoping period that started in October of last year and ran for a month. And during that time, we had a public meeting, and we followed that with a meeting out in the field, actually in the burn area. At the public meeting, we had some Tricon foresters there who told us that we had missed some opportunities. And they also told us at that time when we went into the process, we weren't going to pursue the emergency situation determination. We were going to run it as a normal environmental assessment with an objection period. And we heard at the public meeting that they didn't agree with that. And even those foresters, and Willie Peck from Tricon is here today, was there and said, we need to go to the field. And I took them up on that. We went out to the field the following day, or following week, and we had, I think, 15 folks there. We had several elected officials that were there, and we kicked things around. And as a result of that, both that public meeting in Plains at the high school, as well as the day out in the field, resulted in the forest supervisor considering another alternative that we analyzed that included the acreage that Tricon had proposed that we look at. And then the other part about that is we revisited the rationales why we would not use the ESD. And I think with that pressure, as well as some information from the county commissioners saying that we think you should pursue that authority, we revisited that with a regional forester, and we took it to the chief, and he did ultimately allow us to use that authority. So I think with that emphasis from the public helped us and tremendously to kind of make that happen. We did use another comment period in the spring. You don't normally have to do that with ESD authority, but we chose to do that, so we had actually 2 comment periods that we took into consideration all the comments from the public. I also, during the scoping period, we took it on the road and we went to the Lolo Restoration Committee meeting. We went to the Thompson Falls City Council. They were interested in the process and actually passed a city resolution to support the project. Took it to the Lions Club and the Elks Club around Sanders County. We had some excellent press coverage, and folks around the community realized that we were trying our best to try to get the project out, and did their best to comment and help us out that way. The other thing, at the time, we were not organized as a collaborative. Sanders County actually has 2 collaboratives now. One on the west side is with the Kootenai. Doug Farrell and others are here today, and that's more associated with the Kootenai National Forest, although they look across on the Lolo side as well. But I'm proud to say that the Sanders County, there's a group of 12 or so folks that have been involved in a collaborative for a long time, and really part of the leadership from Carol Brooker and Matt Arnold helped pull that group together. Jim Birchfield came up to help facilitate that group over the last couple months, and now I think in September they voted on a charter, and they have 2 co-chairs and a secretary. So we're up and running, and you know, even though we weren't organized during the time of Copper King, we had 2 or 3 meetings with the collaborative. And that collaborative is made up with a lot of different interests, and we have folks there from the wilderness side of things, as well as folks from the local mills. And I think it creates an excellent opportunity to discuss the project and kind of hammer things out, and we did that. And I have to say that part of the success I contribute to that Sanders County Collaborative, and I'm appreciative of their work with Copper King. Just a couple quick comments. Collaboration, I think, is critical. It's the way that I like to do business. But the one thing I do have to mention in terms of the salvage efforts that are going on right now, collaboration can somewhat be limiting just because of the time frames that we're working with and trying to get these decisions out in a timely manner. Not to say that collaboration isn't necessary and an important part of that, but realize that with that condensed time frames, it can sometimes have its limitations. So that's the Copper King story. I do have to say that the other thing that the collaborative has asked me to do is now that we have these sales operating, that all the bear work has been completed, they're interested in going out and taking a look at next summer. Let's see the results. Let's see what's the end results, and by that time we'll have a fair amount of the logging completed, and it'll be an opportunity to reflect on the design criteria that we used in the EA, and kind of take a look at what worked and what didn't. And with that, I open it up for any kind of questions. Hey, Jim.
Dave, you mentioned that you really had some great help from your staff on Copper King to get it done quickly. You mentioned the TMA and the surveyors, et cetera. You know, you've got some other salvage sales coming up. Like, do you see bottlenecks in your staff? Are there ways that citizens or others in the state or other entities could support your work so that it doesn't get slowed down?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jim. If everyone heard it, the question was, do you anticipate it being bogged down in any degree with the new salvage efforts that are coming up? The Lolo National Forest has several salvage sales that we have started on. Rice Ridge, Sunrise, Sheep Gap, are three that we know that we will do environmental assessments on, and there's two smaller projects, Liberty and Moose Peak, that we'll probably look at as smaller projects. Our A team that worked on the Copper King analysis is dedicated to the Sunrise Fire. On the Sheep Gap Fire, based on a conversation I had with the forest supervisor and the forest leadership team this morning, we will be using a contract team to complete that analysis, as well as Moose Peak. So we are going to use contractors. In addition to that, realizing that in our East Zone planning team will be focusing on Rice Ridge. Realizing that, those two planning teams are going to be in the thick of it, we're going to reach out to other forests, and including the Flathead and the Kootenai, the Bitterroot, and assisting for assistance with our specialists that would review the contractor's work. We're hoping to stay on, our intent is to stay on the same timelines as much as we can. Sheep Gap and Sunrise are in scoping right now. It started last week, and we think Rice Ridge will be ready to scope in December. But great question. We're reaching out to other forests that were not impacted as much with salvage to kind of ask for their assistance. But again, relying to some degree, well, quite a bit on some contractors that we'll be hiring to help with the effort and the analysis. Any other questions? Lots.
Can you talk about any public opposition or litigation threats toward the Copper King project?
Great question. We ended up with probably about 7 or 8 solid folks that had commented during the initial stage of the scoping process. And we did have some folks that were completely opposed to any kind of logging and the impacts of environmental impacts of logging. I would say by and far most of the respondents out of that 7 or 8 that we had, 5 or 6 were very supportive, and there were 2 that were definitely in objection to it. We were very careful with taking into consideration the issues that they brought up. Issues, for instance, with bull trout, grizzly bear, impacts of the burn severity on soils and the impact of tractor logging in particular on those soils. And we also took almost an exhaustive, Pat Partica as our planning team leader, did an excellent job of reviewing all the literature that they had cited and supporting their background or what their desires were. And we think that was helpful to build our case. And fortunately, we, knock on wood, we have not been litigated or had any issues so far with the project, and it's proceeding.
So my question would be related to, did your folks have specific interaction with those folks who would be traditional objectors, some part of this evidence?
No, we received their comments by letter, and I know Pat had contacted them by phone and to clarify some of the issues that they brought up, but they were not participating in any of our collaborative meetings.
Other questions?
How hard was it to get the emergency provision?
The question was, how hard was the emergency situation determination? Chris Partica, our forest planner, did the heavy lifting on that, as well as assistance from the regional office planning team. And Chris ended up putting together about a 30-page document justifying the use of the ESD. We worked really closely with the RO and the WO staffs, and we didn't have any particular issue with that. I'll admit, when I first started and we started kicking that around, I didn't think that was something that we wanted to pursue. And, it was through the input from the public and the collaboratives and the county commissioners that said, hey, you got to revisit that and take another look at it. Fortunately, with the ESD, without the ESD, we anticipated that by the time the decision made it through the objection period, it would be about this time that we'd be able to start offering those sales. And the industry in particular said, you don't want to lose a whole season of logging. And you know, that goes hand in hand with the use of that authority. And as a result, got the decision done in June, and both sales offered this summer to allow for that logging to occur. Yes, sir.
You indicated that you would prioritize some of the public safety issues up front. Did you have any incidents after the fires that developed, flooding or mass wasting, that sort of thing?
No, sir, we didn't. We fortunately, the stormproofing that we did in the early or late fall was helpful with that. We had a really good runoff, and what I mean by that is runoff in Sanders County kind of dragged on over quite a length of time. So we didn't get a big warming period and a lot of runoff at any given time. And that was useful for us to kind of get started on. The service contract with the Bear Work started in early June, and about 75–80% of that was completed by early August. So we wanted to catch those early thunderstorms and offset the effects of that. So that was. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Was much of your fire area highly intensely?
It was. Great question. And interesting enough, on this fire, for about 3 weeks, it sat at about 1,500 acres and behaved itself. And then around August 22nd, we ended up with relatively low RH, high temperatures, and some gusts of up to 50 miles an hour. And that, in one burning period, it made an 8-mile run. And when it ran, it burned intensely. Most of the salvage areas that we identified were almost 100% burned. There was very little residual trees left. That prompted us to look at planting as an option, because there really weren't many seed trees left on site. And the decision did include about 6,000 acres to plant. Now, since we've made that decision, our silviculturist has looked at regenerating trees in that area, and we did have a good seed year in 2016, so we're somewhat optimistic that we're going to have a little more better natural regeneration than originally anticipated. One of the other issues in terms of public safety that we had to deal with is hazard trees along the road systems. In particular, the ACM is a road along the Thompson River. It's used extensively, and there's a lot of dead trees along that road that we did include in the salvage sale to treat. But we still have to deal with a lot of hazard trees along the road systems.
Did you go in with any aerial seeding of annual crops?
The question was, did we use aerial seeding? We did not. There was a fair amount of seeding that was completed as part of the suppression repair effort, and that was not deemed necessary with the bear assessment. Any other questions?
One last question. I understand there's going to be an emergency declaration for the region this year. What's the time frame for that?
Yeah, great. You know, I'm going to be around afterward, so if you have any questions later, I'd be glad to answer that for you.
So we have a number of salvage projects going forward, at least 6 CEAs and several smaller CEs. And we will be requesting emergency situation determinations, and we will batch those requests, but we do not have a solid decision on which one of those projects will be going forward. I imagine there will be several of them, but it's not going to be one ESD that covers the entire region. It's going to be a project by project basis, because that's the way the authority is written. So you have to make a site-specific case for using that authority. So we should know here, I would say by the end of December, which ones are going to go forward and request an ESD on.
Thanks, Christine. Okay, so let's take a break, and then we'll reconvene with some other lessons learned and some examples of collaborative processes. Thank you.